How's it going, you guys? So in this video I want to discuss the top vitamin deficiencies that can be causing depression. So it's extremely important to be aware of vitamin deficiencies that can be causing depression, because a lot of people assume that depression is either all in their head and it's just their thoughts, or they assume that maybe it's genetic or something like that, or that it was created from childhood trauma. And generally, there is a degree of all of these things mixed into the picture. Depression can be influenced by all of these things, but probably the most common cause of depression that if you do not address, none of those other factors matter, would be vitamin deficiencies. Vitamin deficiencies are the most common. They are the most severe causes, as in like the worst cases of depression are physical in nature, stemming from vitamin deficiencies. So it is extremely important that you make sure you take care of vitamin deficiencies before you look anywhere else as far as depression. So the number one vitamin that can cause depression, and it is the most common cause. I myself have had a vitamin D deficiency, okay? Vitamin D deficiency, absolutely. So vitamin D deficiency, it's been estimated that 60% or more of Americans are deficient in vitamin D, even if they get regular sunlight. And the numbers are probably a lot more than 60% now, because this was taken back in 2010. But there were studies done on lifeguards in California who are always getting direct sunlight out near the sea. And like 80% of them were vitamin D deficient, probably because they were wearing sunscreen. But regardless, just because you're getting sun doesn't mean that you're immune to vitamin D deficiency, okay? So what are some of the symptoms of vitamin D deficiency? So depression, chronic fatigue is huge, feeling lethargic and low energy. Also muscle pain, bone pain, joint pain. And then let's see. Yeah, so those are the main ones. And the bone pain, the joint pain, that usually is a progressive one. But the biggest ones are fatigue, depression, low energy, and things like that. So if you have depression, if you have low energy, if you have fatigue, and especially if you have, pains and aches and stuff like that, you should definitely, first of all, if you're doubting it, you can get a vitamin D blood panel for like $100. But you probably are deficient in vitamin D, most likely, unless you're deliberately burning yourself with sun on a regular basis. So the best way to supplement vitamin D is going to be getting vitamin D3 pills, okay, like soft gels or whatever, preferably if they are immersed in olive oil. So that just means like it's vitamin D3 in an olive oil base within the capsule. But as long as you get vitamin D3, and you want to be taking about 20,000 IUs a day for the first 4 weeks, and then you can, or for the first 2 weeks, 20,000 IUs, but probably a good idea to take 20,000 IUs for the first 4 weeks. So let's put it that way. 20,000 IUs for the first 4 weeks, and then you can lower the dose down to 10,000 IUs for the next 4 weeks. And then 5,000 IUs when you begin the third month, okay? And that should reverse your vitamin D deficiency real fast. And it's best to take it with your largest meal or with some fat in the morning. It is probably a good idea to take it in the morning, because some people claim it might disrupt their sleep if they take it at night. But take it with some fat, take it with your biggest meal, with your lunch or whatever. Just make sure you take it, okay? And you do want these high doses at first, 20,000 IUs for the first 4 weeks, and you can even continue taking that high dose for 2 to 3 months if you feel like it's really helping. The only thing I'll say is it's probably a good idea to get a test if you're taking higher doses for more than 2 months or so, just because it's a fat-soluble nutrient, and you want to make sure that you're not overdosing in the long term. But it's probably safe to do that protocol I mentioned. So anyway, 20,000 IUs of vitamin D for the first month or so. Very, very important, okay? So now, the second deficiency on the list is going to be iodine, okay? Iodine, and this is not a very commonly claimed nutrient deficiency for depression because it seems to just be neglected. Everyone's focused on vitamin D, focusing on B vitamins. No one's focusing on iodine. So iodine is actually a mineral, okay? And it's a mineral that we used to get a large amount of, but studies done on our modern food supply show that the plants and foods that are supposed to be high in iodine are no longer high. Like the iodine in our food supply has gone down significantly. Probably the primary source of iodine and is going to be things like sea vegetables. So if you like seaweed chips, things like seafood and shrimp. You know, if you find yourself craving seafood chips on a regular basis, it's probably a sign that your body needs iodine. But I guarantee you, if you're not consuming like shrimp like every single day, and you're not taking kelp on a regular basis, you're probably low in iodine. It's very important. So iodine deficiency can cause many different symptoms. The first one is depression, but from there also, of course, low energy and especially low thyroid. So if you notice you have trouble losing weight, if you're not losing weight as fast as you think you should be, if you feel like your mind is a little bit slow, like your cognition is slow, these can be caused by iodine deficiency. Okay, so thyroid issues, problems losing weight, low energy, mental issues, things like ADHD or ADD. All of these things can be caused by iodine deficiency. And especially if you're diagnosed with a thyroid issue, especially if it's low thyroid, hypothyroidism, you're probably deficient in iodine. And don't think for 1 second that your doctor checked. All my blood tests are fine. Most doctors don't check for these things. They check for thyroid issues. They don't check for iodine deficiency. And this is actually why, if you look at table salt, most conventional table salts are fortified with iodine. They're iodized. The reason why is because the government saw that there was a huge amount of iodine deficiency in the population after the food supply started to get depleted, so they had to add it back in. So you could consume like a teaspoon of table salt a day, of iodized table salt a day. But my recommendation would be to buy Lugol's iodine in tincture form and take, if you think you're deficient, you should probably start with about 3 milligrams of Lugol's iodine, which is a lot, and then slowly work your way up to 5, maybe 8 milligrams over the course of 4 weeks. But sometimes it can cause like a feeling of overheating of your body and a little bit of jitteriness if you raise the dose too soon. But it's extremely important to take iodine, Lugol's iodine. I supplement with Lugol's iodine, but I also supplement with kelp intermittently. So I take a kelp powder. You can buy like 12 ounces of organic kelp powder from like National Grocers for about $8. But the thing is, it's hit or miss on how much of that you're actually digesting and absorbing. So if you suspect you have a deficiency, start off with Lugol's iodine. And you can also just take a regular iodine supplement, but I recommend Lugol's iodine just because it's the most effective, most widely used, and pharmacologically active and recommended form. Okay, so 3 milligrams of that per day. So next on the list is going to be vitamin B12. If you're eating enough meat, red meat, you're probably getting enough B12, but There's a lot of people that claim even meat eaters are deficient in B12. So it's really a safe vitamin to take. It's best to take vitamin B12 along with the B vitamin complex so you don't imbalance the other B vitamins. Just take 100% of your daily recommended value, and you should be good to go. But even more concerning and more likely is going to be either a folate, which is, I actually forgot which, is that vitamin B7? No, that's biotin. I don't remember. But folate or folic acid is a B vitamin. In particular, folate or methylfolate is a good form to take it in. Folate and vitamin B1 are are some common deficiencies that people might have. So the thing is, vitamin B1 is not commonly found in a lot of the meat products people eat other than pork. So pork is pretty high in vitamin B1, but beef is not. B1, folate, and also B12 are responsible not only for important functions in the nervous system, and circulation as well. You can actually develop anemia. Even if your iron levels are good enough, you can develop anemia if you're low on these vitamins. And also they're required for the processing of carbohydrates and energy from fats to a lesser extent. So if you're feeling tired, you're feeling depressed, it's possible your body's not producing energy from the food you eat if you're deficient in B1, folate, and B12. And you could possibly have subclinical anemia as well, which would cause, circulation problems and stuff like that, which is also a symptom of iodine deficiency, feeling cold. So, again, you could just literally take a B vitamin complex and be good to go. Some experts recommend 200 micrograms of B1 and 100% daily value of your daily folate, and then like 12,000% of your daily value of B12. But you don't have to go that far. Just take a regular B vitamin complex and you should be good to go. And if you're eating enough meat products, and especially if you're eating liver on the side, you should be good as far as B vitamins are concerned. But watch the folate in B1. Probably track it in a chronometer is a good idea. So the next vitamin deficiency that's pretty common, a pretty common cause of depression is vitamin C deficiency. So there's this big stigma in the carnivore community that I was I don't know if I'd say I was preaching, but I was talking a lot about for a long time. And that's the idea that you don't need vitamin C for optimal health or to survive or anything like that. But the bottom line is that vitamin C deficiency can cause fatigue, it can cause depression, and it can cause gum and teeth problems as well. It can cause your hair to fall out and cause all sorts of problems. Now, vitamin C is vitally important as a precursor to norepinephrine, which is a neurotransmitter in your brain that's responsible for focus, for dealing with stress, for being able to breathe easily, and just for feeling good, and for regulating sleep. And vitamin C is also important as a precursor for different enzymes that regulate the entire dopamine cascade. Okay, so that means from everything from preventing cortisol release, which means it helps to relax you and prevent stress, but also for preserving dopamine, for preserving tyrosine, and also it's important for, again, the conversion of thyroid hormones. So if you're not consuming enough vitamin C in your diet, then you might actually be suppressing thyroid. Because it can't make active thyroid hormones from tyrosine and thyroxine due to precursors, due to vitamin C being a precursor, you're not having enough. So my recommendation for vitamin C, believe it or not, again, is to just supplement with ascorbic acid. Now, the reason why I say to supplement is because if you have a deficiency to where you feel depressed and you feel depressed enough to be watching a video about vitamin deficiencies, you probably have some kind of deficiency, and it's probably clinically significant. So taking lemon juice or something like that is good if you already have a baseline level of vitamin C over time, or any of these vitamin deficiencies. If you don't have a deficiency yet, you could easily just continue on with whole foods. But when you cross the line of deficiency, you shouldn't be fucking around with just whole foods. You need you need to know exactly how much of this nutrient you're getting per day. You need to take a clinically significant dose of it over time so that you can give your body what it needs to start feeling good again. And a lot of people try to sell these like whole food vitamin C supplements. You don't need that. Just buy ascorbic acid. It's cheap, it's effective, it's what's been used for over 100 years to reverse scurvy. Actually, they can just use lemons to reverse scurvy, but we're talking clinical manifestations of vitamin C deficiency, and that means low energy, that means lack of focus and lack of brain power, possible thyroid issues, and depression. So right now, at first, I think it's a good idea to start with 1 gram of ascorbic acid per day. Okay, that's a pretty low dose. Most people can tolerate it, and it's enough to show you pretty good results within 7 days. So taking 1 gram of ascorbic acid, I think taking it on an empty stomach, that's what I do, but taking it with food might help some people to avoid diarrhea and other things. So take 1 gram of vitamin C per day for, for a month maybe, and you should see a difference. But it's a good idea to take it every day for other possible benefits that Linus Pauling's talked about, which, by the way, Linus Pauling lived to be like 93, and I think it's probably mostly because of his vitamin C consumption. Anyway, what else? Magnesium. So the next one on the list is magnesium, okay? So magnesium is, again, one of these most vitally important it's actually a mineral deficiencies that can cause depression. So it's another one of these ones that have been said to be deficient in the majority of the population. I think I saw one study that said about 73% of the population is likely to be magnesium deficient. And that's possibly because, number one, people don't eat foods that are high in magnesium because they're mostly found in whole plant foods and in animal foods, but people don't eat enough beef or animal foods to supply enough magnesium. So most people are deficient because they're eating refined foods, basically. And also the food supply itself is said to be deficient in magnesium, but I don't believe that. So the type of magnesium that I like to recommend is magnesium citrate. It's magnesium bounded to citric acid, basically. And I typically will take about 400 milligrams of magnesium in the form of magnesium citrate. And if you think you're deficient, I would recommend starting off with 400 just because too much of it might have diminishing returns. And you should notice you take it before bed, 400 milligrams before bed, you notice better sleep. You'll notice you take a amazingly healthy bowel movement the next morning. And after about a week of taking it, you should feel really, really healthy. Now, other people might find more success with different forms of magnesium, like magnesium glycinate. But for me personally, I found that these other forms that people recommend actually made me have diarrhea, even at lower doses, whereas magnesium citrate never gave me diarrhea, ever. Unless I take maybe 1,000 or more, but I've never done that. And it's also the most bioavailable form that does not cause other issues and is not super expensive. Magnesium taurate is said to be a good one for neurological problems like mental issues and things like that, and depression. So you might want to look into magnesium taurate. And then magnesium L3 L-threate or L-theanate. Look into those other forms and see if maybe they're within your price range and you want to try them out. I should probably try those other forms of magnesium because I've heard great things about them. But for now, I stick to magnesium citrate. Actually, I've been taking a concentrate, mineral concentrate, because it contains about 200 milligrams of magnesium per serving. It also contains lithium and other trace minerals that used to be found in our water that we don't get anymore because we drink purified water or we drink the heavily chlorinated water, which, by the way, tap water can interfere with your thyroid because of the brominate and the chlorine or things that are in it. So avoid tap water if you think you have thyroid issues. So yeah, I would recommend definitely looking at the vitamin D, the iodine, the vitamin C, the magnesium. Those are the first ones because those are the most likely issues for most people. And then vitamin B1 and folate. And maybe take B12 too if you're already taking those. And if you take all of these, you should notice a difference in your depression within, I would say 2 months at the most, but I would say 1 month minimum. You should notice a pretty big difference if it's a vitamin deficiency. So leave your question and comments down below. Let me know if you personally have had any experience with healing depression with some of these vitamins or minerals. And let me know if I missed one. If I missed one that you think should be on this list. Okay, and I will talk to you guys very soon.